All righty. Good afternoon, everybody. So glad to have you here. I'm going to do this little disclaimer. Today is Monday, March 21st, and welcome to the 43rd CALLERLAB Convention in Norfolk, Virginia. The name of this session is Keeping It Fresh, Keep Them Coming. I'm Jack Pladdys, and I'll serve as your moderator and a panelist for this session. And our panelists today, the other panelist, I want to kind of introduce Mr. Corben Geis. Okay? And Corey lives in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and has been calling since 1985. Yeah. He got married in 2009, correct? Yep. I dug it off your website. And he calls basic through A2 and instructs line dancing. One of the reasons for this particular seminar is for Corey and I both work with local clubs on a regular basis, and you all know how sometimes it can get a little mundane and routine when you're working with the same group over and over and over again. And we put together this presentation to show you some ways that may help you keep it fresh and keep it coming. So if you would, please say hello to Corben Geis.
Thanks, Jack. Hey, can you do me a favor? You pass these out. These make great fans. Hey, you're good. And if you have crayons, you can color them. Just those for now. I might have given you way too much, too. If they want to use double fans. I also have leftover handouts from my earlier panel on Divert Your Thinking. And the two diverse groups that I really enjoy working with, and if that overlaps into this session too, are the handy-capable groups and going into the schools. So a lot of times, and whenever you want to talk about keeping it fresh and fun, when working with my regular clubs, it's sometimes hard because I'm, well, a little bit of a clown. In a cartoon myself, and a lot of times they don't want to have as much fun as I have. If I have a theme dance, I theme it all the way, baby. If it's Saturday morning cartoons, it's theme, I dress up as Fred Flintstone, where the dancers will just be, that's nice. I don't just play the music. I really go. I'm an activities director, too, for a personal care home. I work at the veterans home back in our area, so we love themes. The two things I'm just going to emphasize that I really love to do to keep it fun and fresh is to do fun badges. Some areas call them dangle dances, and you are in luck because Susie Q Creations is here. She is one of the vendors. I have her dangles available at the bottom of the first page there. Susie Q, she's here. So if you've never heard about or haven't seen in a while some of the fun and fancy different theme fun badges, go see her. She's got the catalog. I was just reading them the other night, and I couldn't believe there were ones that I didn't even know about. And I have a handy-capable group. They love these things. And you remember, you ever see the people who go to the national conventions, and they've been there since 1955, and they have every year, and there are these dangles that are weighing them down like this? Well, we have those in fun badges. And after you do 4 or 5 different type of fun badge or dangle you don't have to have the dangle. I call them my kids when I talk about the students at the school and the handy-capable. That's their prize, the fun badge. You can still do these without having, a fun badge. But here's a few that are a lot of fun. Now, Jack, if you have time, can you YouTube Elastic Band Square Dance? That's going to be number 4. So whenever you get that, I'll jump to number 4. I do this with my regular clubs. They think I'm nuts. But every once in a while, when we do demos, I try to incorporate some of the stuff so that people who are non-square dancers see how much fun we are. Dance barefooted, I'm sure. Elastic band square dance. Oh, jeez. If he gets this like right away, we'll jump to that. Anybody ever hear dance barefooted before? The barefoot dance? That's just a lot of fun. I actually did a singing called Barefootin', and there it is. It's the first one up. Go ahead. You can play that if you want. Just a lot of people ask about the elastic band. You want to talk about callers trying to keep their squares closer together? I went to a fabric store, I guess, to get this elastic band, and my grandma sewed it together many, 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 many times. Uh-oh. Just imagine a really big rubber band and 8 people getting in the middle of it and calling. I did it with several groups. They absolutely love it. Now, people with body odor, maybe they don't want to be close to, but you just start off circling left, and they're doing it, and circling right, and stars, and then you want to keep it taut, so you have to have some people leaning back. But when you get into grand squares and relay the deuces, we can see it like an animation. That's cool. Flip, 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 flip. I'm being an art major. I love this. This was actually a fun night. So these several of these people, if we get to this, have never danced before. So the first thing they're doing is I put them in a cool. Oh, and there we go. This is the elastic band square dance. Don't worry if you don't get sound. It's just me singing off key. That's a real hard call right there. That's called bow to the partner, bow to the corner. And there we go again. Let me talk about some more. The barefoot badge is called the hot foot. Here's one that is a lot of fun. Dancing in shoe boxes. Have you ever done that? Where you put one box here, shuffle, 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 shuffle. Lots of laughs. Lots of laughs. I do that with the handicap group. Do it on a graduation night. This, like here, a lot of times a fun night is a good night to do these. Have you ever you got a question already? Yeah, we got it. Can we hold the questions off for just okay. Keep it. Don't lose it. Keep it there. Okay. The lights out dance, which is a lot of fun. If you can find the glow sticks, the glow sticks, the kids put them around big in the youth halls, right around their necks or belts. And there is a glowworm badge you can do for that. And when I talk about the kids again, we're trying to put positive images of square dancing into the youth. So when they're older, they don't have horror stories of, when I square danced, it was just banjo and fiddle, and we had to dance to records that were this thick, and they skipped. They're like, oh my gosh, we danced in a rubber band. I love square dancing. Dancing with balloons. Now, there's 2 ways of doing dancing with the balloons. I've seen it, which I think is really funny, is they blow up a balloon and put it between their legs and try to square dance. But a lot of people in my regular club who aren't that coordinated, not a lot of stealth, they kind of tie a string around it and put it around their ankles. So it's cute, but it's not as funny as people going like this. And it also brings out, if you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at? If you need to jump in at any time with it. Okay. Have you ever danced blindfolded? If you do it, I've never seen all 8 dancers doing it. But you usually get 1 person, maybe 2, to dance blindfold. And just talking about these fun badges, you don't want to do this every tip. You don't, maybe do 1 a night, maybe do 2 a month in your club, unless you got a really, 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 really fun group like my Handicapables. And I said one of my favorite clubs ever is the Handicapables, because why? No politics, no cliques, and they love Yellow Rocks. And if you love square dancing, they really, 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 really love square dancing. So they're always coming to me with, what are we going to do next? And if you've ever been to a convention, you've seen people dancing in a swimming pool. Of course, there's a badge for that. The elastic band, we're seeing sort of what it is there. Sure, why not? Once again, this was a fun night. So there's several angels in there, but there are some people who have never really danced at all. And the one lady here commented to me, she said, oh my gosh, I never had so much fun. I never knew. I never had any idea that square dancing was this much fun. You get the gist. And you can call whatever you want to. I mean, it's like I said, brand new for some folks.
For those of you that are listening to the tape, we're looking at a YouTube video.
I'm just thinking of one guy. This guy here is one of our angel dancers. He just had his leg amputated. He's a great guy. He's one of our best angels. But we'll have him in my wheelchair club in no time, he said. We are watching a bunch of dancers who are sober, too, by the way, and so is the caller, and they're all in a gigantic, I want to see this one. This isn't mine, but they're dancing in the elastic band. So cheap, so inexpensive, too, to do. Dance with a mop and a broom. This is, speaking of a sobriety test, this is a lot of fun. If you know, the broom is the guy because he's got the flat top, and the mop, if you put the mop up, the hair lays down like that, so that's the girl. Start off with 1. Don't try 2 at the beginning because it's a very big teamwork thing trying to pass on while you're square dancing, square through 4, where everybody goes. It's a little harder, so you want to do walkthroughs, but there's always a good laugh. That's the most important thing of all, the keeping it fresh and fun. Is if they're smiling, if you're seeing that they're not having fun, trap door and get something else. Dance in a bathroom, that's called a crackpot. They have some great names for these. We did that at a convention someplace. And there's down at number 1. This is no particular. This isn't like David Letterman's top 10. These are just 10 that I randomly picked. Have you danced in elevators, on top of king size beds, in restaurants? There are badges for each one of those. Okay, can I take questions for there until I jump into the next part? Yes, sir.
As you do a question, please state your name, where you're from, and then your question.
Don Casper, Mannheim, Germany. I did this as a round dance graduation, but it's similar to your shoebox number 9 there. If you don't have those shoe boxes home, dance in paper bags, paper grocery bags.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Works too. And as I said, I did this for a round dance graduation, and then at the end I collected the bags again. The girls' bags were all torn. The guys' bags were still usable.
Really?
Yes.
Do they still do plastic paper? I haven't seen paper in a while.
Yeah.
Guess you could do plastic. That's cool. Paper or plastic dance?
Mike Prescott from Alaska. There's also a lemon teaser badge. Usually the dancers will do this. They will put a lemon wedge in their mouth and dance right in front of the caller. That didn't work with me because between the patter and the singing call, I ate a lemon wedge.
Ooh.
And continued on, and it drove them nuts.
That's great. That just gives me some material for a cartoon.
Were you born in Alaska?
No.
I was.
Another thing you do is simply get a big giant bag of big balloons, and you can buy them. I'm Mike Seastrom from Los Angeles, and get a big giant bunch of balloons, 70, 80 balloons, and just get about 4 people, and you want to change the tone of your dance, blow up those balloons and let them go on the floor. And you got 7 or 80, 1 foot size balloons that people dance around, and you'll get people kicking in them and dancing them, and it'll change the entire tone of an evening, and it makes it fun. It's just something different, just balloons on the floor.
How about water balloons? Oh, sorry, that's a different. Okay, you got something, Scotty?
Yeah.
Scotty Brown.
Scotty Brown from Pittsburgh. One of the things we did, a lot of times we'll switch over to hexagon squares. Another thing we'll switch over to sometimes is progressives. Another thing we'll do is, I was just showing Mike, I have a video on my phone. We had a square down in West Virginia on campus for their convention, and we all danced in the water fountain while it was running during the day. Yeah, the water, the fountain on the campus. It was really, and the thing about it was really cool the way it's designed. The goal was not to get soaking wet, and we were able to dance inside the fountain without getting soaking wet. It was pretty neat. And then, yeah, it was really neat. And another thing, that we've tried is, if you go down to West Virginia, same campus at their convention, 13 miles north of there, there's this covered bridge. And it's the only one in the federal highway system, and it is the site of the first land battle of the Civil War.
Okay.
And we take squares up there to dance on there, and they get a badge for dancing on the Mason-Dixon line.
Oh,
it's
that's cool.
really cool, yeah.
That's cool. Scott's pretty creative with his groups.
What he forgot to mention is after he danced in the water fountain, he had to be bailed out of jail.
Yeah, really. Did you have something with water balloons?
No, I've never tried water balloons.
No, I was just making that up.
The elevators, yeah, we did. And by the time, we have it,
Okay.
I'm Dale Chase, and I'm from on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. And Butch is the one that told us about that. I don't know if you know Butch Adams. He passed away, but we started in the elevator. There's 60 floors, and we danced all the way up, and we danced all the way back. And by the time they said you could hear us when we were up on the 60th floor, running into things and having a good time. By the time he got down there, he had a line waiting to go back up in the elevator and start all over again.
So they didn't ask you to leave?
No.
That's always...
No, in fact, we even had a few of their people that wanted to try it.
So if you have a chance while you're here, check out Susie Q. She is here, and she's got tons and tons, and I'm not getting any residuals or anything by telling you that she's here. It's just she's got a whole list of fun badges. I'm going to go on to the next page because Jack's got a lot of cool stuff too. Like I said, the two things that I'm just talking about right now are the dangle fun badges and mixers. We have I'm from central Pennsylvania, and we have a Pennsylvania State Convention. And a few years ago, I tried something that we really don't do a lot of in our area. I'm not so certain about all the different corners of our state either, but we had, at the conventions, we always have our round dancing and maybe some contra squares plus, but I did a whole hall of nonstop mixers. And when I just went to the styling session there and was educated about how many of our dancers don't know the styling end of it. I had people coming to this session, they had never heard of a mixer. One of the guys thought I was teaching them like mixology, how to mix drinks. No, we did all types of stuff, and a lot of them, these are people who had danced for many years, said, I didn't know you could do square dancing to so many different forms. And way down at the end of this page is Cal Campbell's website. Some of you know this. It stands for Dancing for Busy People, D4 as in the number, BP.com. He has tons and tons of really cool things that I'm going to talk about here, like dancing in the trios and dancing they call them Sicilian circles, but some people know them as mini squares, and the mezcolanzas, which are 4x4. But some of the other fun mixer games that I enjoy is dancing Siamese. Has anybody seen that before? Where you're okay, and then tandem. You could do the challenge concept tandem, or you can do the square inside a square tandem, which is interesting. If you have a couple extra dancers at your dance and they want to dance too, they can dance Gemini, where they just hook on to somebody and there's an extra hand. Any of these type of dances, I suggest on the back to go to Clark Baker's page. He's got, you want to talk about a great name, mixedup.com. He's got some fabulous square games that, to me, go whoosh, straight over my head. If you've ever seen his check dancing, wow. I have to I'll tell you briefly about that. Windmilling. I love windmilling because it seems like every once in a while we'll get an odd number of couples, and they want to dance. They don't want to sit out and wait. So when you're windmilling, if you know about not the windmilling system, the calling mental image thing, this is windmilling where you have a square, and at the head couple you have another head couple behind them. And they dance, and when they're done, they step out. They go behind couple number two. The people who are behind them, they step up, and they get to dance. And you with me? I'm going by really quick on this. And you just do that, and everybody gets to dance. Okay, so we talked Sicilian circles, which are awesome. Dancing for Busy People is it's my Bible. I've had it since they initially wrote it back in like 2000, and it's just fantastic. Going into schools, keeping it fun and fresh for your clubs. If you don't want to buy that book, go to the website. Tons of stuff. You'll never be bored. I cannot do hexagon squares to save my life. And I'll be honest with you, my problem with hexagon squares, and there's people who are very, very left-brained. I am an art major. I am so right-brained, it's ridiculous. That's why I had to draw pictures in these. When I was taught to dance, I'm always taught to line up with a side wall or a head wall. So when they dance hexagon at a diagonal, I am just so lost because I want to I want to square up. The Y's and the triangles really mess me up. But I like to do the rectangle dancing, which is pretty much just the picture I drew there. You have 2 couples on the sides and 4 couples at the heads. And you can do so much stuff there. If you can dance or call hexagons, I think you're geniuses. Scatter promenades and air raids. Actually learned that at a CALLERLAB a long time ago. If you've ever seen them, they might call them something else in your neck of the woods. But scatter promenades is usually you have 4 or 5 or 6 squares on the floor. Boy, that'd be a really good night in our area to have that many squares. But couple number 1, scatter promenade to another set. Couple number 1 runs over here, and this couple come. The kids love it when we do it. My regular club, they like the scatter promenades, but they don't really like the air raid. The kids love the air raid. That's when you mix this couple over here and this couple there. When I yell air raid, everybody run back to where you originally started. Stampede sometimes, but the younger ones love it. They seem to have a lot of fun. Arky dancing. Those of you who've been dancing for a long time know about arky dancing. It's fun. It's something a little different. A little DBD there, half sashade, because you got all types of fun with games. You got the fun, wacky games like I like, and then you got the cerebral type of games that are a little bit harder. I was calling with my one group many years ago, and we were calling in a gymnasium, and the door to the storage was unlocked, and they had volleyballs and basketballs, but they had those little things that the kids get on and you sit and you bounce. What are they called? Space hoppers? There were 8 of them. There were 8 of them, and there were 8 dancers, and they were pretty good. So they got up and we danced. Not long, but we danced like that. And I said, "Hey, look what's in here!" And they're like, "You're crazy. Let's do it." And most of them were pretty strong and sturdy. But that's something I wouldn't do with my octogenarian group back home. This was a group of, they were in their 50s. And they laughed hysterical. But we couldn't go much longer than doing few calls because we were laughing so silly. Of course, that spread back to all the other clubs. You know what he did? You think, yeah. Old calls. Here's another... some of you are probably fluent by going to cedar.net. Vic and Debbie Cedar's site. He has a whole thing of a whole list of old calls like Snapperoo and Scamper and the other 1 million calls that probably Lee Kaufman wrote that aren't on the real list. No, there's so many. Swing back. He sometimes has them listed as NOL. That's not on the list. And every once in a blue moon, just for fun with my DBD group, I give them the list and they'll say, hey, they'll circle stuff. Here, I want to see how to do this call, and I want to see how to do this call, which gives me more homework, but I go back and look up how to do the old calls. The grand square variations are so much fun, I think. As a matter of fact, one of the last times I went into a school, the kids were like, I don't want to dance. I had junior high kids. And they get a little bit of attitude there. So what I did was, all we did was grand square. We did nothing else but grand square variations. From boys versus the girls. Girl square, boy square, grand square. Then we did they used to call it the Chinese grand square, where you turn and face and the girls act as the sides and the boys act as the heads. And then we were, depending on how you can build them up, I think Vic at his cedar.net has about 12. Grand Prow, Grand Parade, a whole bunch of different grands, which are a lot of fun. And boy, does it break up the monotony of just a regular dance. And there's easy stuff too that I thought just for fun I'd try. You remember the Grand Sachet? How easy that is? It's a right and left grand, just interrupted with do, si, do, right pull by, seesaw, left pull. That's it. And the dancer's like, that was really fun. And I'm like, Wow. So stuff that you might not think is like really fun, they might like. There's some stuff on the back. I have some notes. I'm going to hand the mic back over to Jack. I have my email at the bottom of the back. Anytime you want to give me drop me a line, and I love ideas. So any ideas you have, please let me know. And I do get to write and draw cartoons for the Square Dance magazine. And a lot of the stuff that I write about is fun stuff. I rarely will write about square dancing is in its final days. We don't know what to do. I'm usually the one like, hey, while we still have it, let's have fun with this. So check it out on the back. If you have any questions, give me a holler. Jack, Pladdys.
All right. Hey, Corey, thank you so much. How about a nice hand for Corey? I'm going to let you hold that.
I'm going out there.
And if you want to. So when I was working on this and getting this together, incidentally, the handouts, the white handout is basically this PowerPoint. That's what it is. But when I was putting this together, and Corey and I were emailing each other back and forth, once I realized the approach he was going to take, I decided I was going to take it into a different approach. By the way, this is my wife, Sherry, and she couldn't be here this week because she's visiting with our grandkids, but I just wanted to let you see her. Anyhow, so being a club caller for the same club on a reoccurring basis can be very challenging, but it could also be very rewarding. Many obstacles come your way as you're trying to develop solid programs. Not only do you have to work your program instilling the types of things Corey touched on to keep it fresh, but you also need to consider the following. So what I decided to do is I was going to take it from a club management and a caller management standpoint, because that's also what we have to do. Now, later on in this, I point out, I call for 4 clubs on a regular basis in my area. Okay, out of those 4 clubs, I probably have 250 dancers, and over half of those 250 dancers dance at least 2 of those clubs. Okay, so you can see the challenge I have of keeping it fresh and keeping them coming. I got to keep doing things. So as you're doing this, consider some of these things. Is the club a dancer run or a caller run club? Okay, if it's a caller run club, what's the dance? Or I mean, if it's a dancer run club, what's the dance frequency each month? Okay, so do you know how many times you're going to dance, and are you keeping your singing calls fresh and things like that? So you need to keep a track of that. Are you teaching for that group? Okay, it's really important that you're teaching and developing your new clientele. Okay, to help keep your club fresh and to keep you fresh. What are the group skills? You've got to keep that in mind as you're managing your clubs. And if it is a dancer-run club, does the club have some sort of a charter or a constitution or whatever that identifies rules or expectations out of the club caller? So these are things you should understand as you're trying to deal with regular groups. All right, and are you are you providing input for your theme dances? I think that's very important. A caller can make or break a theme dance. Okay, back in the days of records, when we all carried records, most of us didn't carry 800 records. Okay, so if you weren't providing input on your club's theme dances, and you show up with a briefcase full of 35 records, and they're all rock and roll records, and you walk in and everybody's dressed in luau shirts, because today's a luau, you didn't help your club. You didn't keep it fresh there. You need to be you need to know what's going on as far as theme dances, and you can provide good input on some theme dances. Not everything's got to be a luau or a 50s, 60s dance. Those are probably the 2 more popular ones. Try one of the ones that I've got my group doing this year is called the Jimmy Buffett dance. Okay, and I'm doing, it's called, the name of the dance is Cheeseburger in Paradise, and we're going to do all Jimmy Buffett music. They can wear their flowered shirts, but it's different stuff. It's different. So things like that. Provide input to your group. Be a leader. Just tell them. And here's another thing you don't want to do as far as these theme dances go. My group dances, most of my groups dance twice a month. First, third, and fifth, or whatever, second, fourth. Some of my clubs like to have a theme every dance. That overdoes it. You limit your theme dances. Okay, you might have an overall theme or something like that. If it's Easter, and then it's the Easter egg dance or whatever. But you don't have to do special themes with different food and costumes every dance. You do that and you're overdoing it. But see, what I decided to do is I took a little different approach. And I'm not going to read all this to you. It's in the handout. But what I did is I went to my club officers. And I told them that I've been asked to do this panel. And so what I thought I would like to try to do is get input from my dancers. What I wanted to hear from them. I wanted to say, okay, what is it I'm doing that keeps you coming back, okay, other than being cheap? You know, maybe that was it. No, I'm only kidding. But what keeps the dancers coming back? And I thought, well, who better to tell me than the dancers themselves? So I sent an email out to my club officers, and I asked them to pass it on to all the club and get some feedback, and told them I needed it back by the 1st of March. And, of course, they got it back to me about the 19th of March. And that's why I had to print out my own handouts. And give it, of a survey. So here, and what I did is I kind of paraphrased all the answers into what's going on. So the first question I asked, I said, what in your opinion are qualities or traits that stand out in my calling ability leading to your enjoyment on a regular basis? Okay, so here's some of the answers. Okay, they like my good, clear voice that is understandable. Okay. And it used to be a little bit easier to understand before I had my surgery, but I still work hard on my calling to make sure I'm very, very articulate and they understand me as I'm delivering commands. It's important, you know. Dancers like to be able to hear. Okay. I didn't put that. They put that. They said I got a wonderful singing voice, so that helps. Okay. That's part of the enjoyment the dancers have. Okay. They like my timing. Okay, because I make the dancing very smooth. So these are things that we as callers need to work on. If the dancers are telling me this is why they come back, then obviously maybe that would be a general consensus at most clubs. Okay, they like the timing and making the dancing smooth and all that kind of stuff. And I don't do a lot of stop-start. I try to keep the wind in their face. I'm not one of these callers that do a lot of brain-teasing choreography and things like that at any level. I call all the way through C1, but I like keeping them moving. Okay. They like the music. This is something that we should always work on as callers. But they like the music. The music's upbeat and peppy, and also a wide variety of the music genres. I stay updated on my music all the time. I've got caller friends. They're real good friends. They haven't bought a piece of music in 30 years. Okay, they haven't upgraded to using computers and things like that, and they're still doing all the old Gray Mare songs. Okay, there's a lot of great music out there these days on several of the record labels, and they're putting out really, really cool stuff. The instrumentation is awesome. I mean, we've got some great square dance music coming out these days. Use that to the best of your ability. Oh my gosh, I go out and spend $300-400 a year just buying new music, okay, and then I'm lucky enough that I do get a few comps here and there too. So, and I'm using new music all the time because my dancers come up and say, "Hey, we love that new music. We love that new music." I was doing, what's the one, the Journey song, "Don't Stop Believing." I was doing that at a dance, I don't know, a year or so ago, and the guy comes up to me. He says, "Man, I just love all this popular brand new music you're using." I said, "Sir, that song's 40 years old." But they like it, and it's good stuff. So go out and investigate. Go to the website, Square. What is it? Music for Callers. Yeah, www.musicforcallers. Every record label that's viable these days is on that, and you can go and listen to all the new releases and things like that right from your computer while you're at work. But music is one of my fortes as far as keeping them coming back. This is one I wasn't expecting to hear. This one, the way they wrote it, they said, "Good speaker system allows me to hear from wherever I am in the dance hall," and it didn't occur to me, but it makes sense. Look at your equipment. Is your equipment up to date? Is it 60 years old? Are you still using a caliphone, or a Newcomb or something like that? Make sure your equipment is up to date, especially your speakers. Make sure you check your speakers out. Do you have some cracks in them? Are they old? Do you need to replace them? Dancers like to be able to hear. We take a little bit of that for granted sometimes, but they like the clarity and they like to hear good speaker systems or good equipment. Well, kind of the next statement, or the next question I asked them is, do you find yourself anticipating my commands on a regular basis? And, that could be a problem when you're calling for the same club over and over and over again. I mean, you can't tell the same jokes every dance, right? I mean, it's the easiest thing in the world could be to go out and call 10 nights in a row 150 miles away from each other, down the road. You can use the same jokes, the same music, everything, and now if you go back next year, you can't. But when you're calling for the same group of people 3 times a month, and some of those are coming 6 times a month because they attend 2 of your clubs, you've got to really come up with some stuff. And I'm not talking about hard stuff. You got to start, being a little bit more creative with your choreography, using some of the things that Corey was talking about, as far as some of the different old calls and things like that. Maybe remember in the day we used to have the quarterly selection, Come up with something like that. Have your own quarterly selection and focus a call at a dance or things like that. Don't just go out there and, do the same swing throughs, boys run, bend the line all the time, because your dancers will get bored. All right? And they will start anticipating. This was an interesting answer. Sometimes, but we've been dancing with you for a very long time. And the couple that actually sent that one in, I taught them square dance in 1988, and they still dance with the same club that I taught them with, and they come all the time, and they love me to death, and I love them to death. But after a while, they can see it. But here's another one. Sometimes, but find nothing wrong with anticipating as long as they don't do the call before I call it. Okay? You've seen those dancers. We've all seen them. So my third question was, does my stage presence and personality lend to or distract from your dance experience? I almost didn't want to ask this question, okay? And one of the reasons why is I'm not that outgoing type of guy. It takes I don't just run up and start hugging on people and kissing people. My wife does all that, which is great. Okay, but I'm one of those that I'm slow to get to know somebody and things like that. And then since my surgery a couple of years ago, I tend to try not to talk to people straight on, because my mouth goes crooked and all that kind of stuff. So I was almost afraid to put that on there. The other reason is and I do very much appreciate those callers that always dress for their dances. But sometimes I'm coming straight from work. I might still have on I dress like this to go to work, so I may be dressed like this to go call my dance, especially if it's a midweek dance at home. So I was afraid they were going to say, "We want you in a suit and tie every time you come in," but I didn't get that. Okay, this was cool. This dancer said, "I don't pay too much attention to what is going on the stage during the calls." So, yeah, that was honest. It's like, oh, man, that was an ego booster. When the dancing is stopped, this is key. When the dancing is stopped, and I think what they meant is between the patter and the singing call, you provide enough conversation to keep folks interested without taking away too much dance time. I had this similar answer probably on almost half of all the responses, okay? You don't want to be that caller that spends 5 minutes between the patter and the singing call talking about, what your grandkid did the other day and, what politician you're voting for and things like that. There's callers out there that do that. They talk, okay? What I usually do is a couple times during the night, okay, I might, preamble a song. And say, hey, this is a John Fogerty, blah, 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 and it's really cool. It's from the 70s. That's my genre, whatever. I might do stuff like that, or give them a little history of the song, like American Pie. You give them the history of what American Pie was and things like that, and people like that, okay? But I don't spend, and then 2 or 3 times during the night, I do nothing. I say nothing at all. I just go from the patter to the singer. Some people just want to dance. They don't want to hear you talk. Okay? So, find that happy medium, but try not to spend 5 minutes between each tip talking about your car that just broke down and you got to put it in the shop and blah, blah, blah. My outgoing nature and wit are most welcome. I think what the wit means is sometimes I'll pick on people, while I'm calling. Like, you've always seen, the one lady, she'll look for whoever she's supposed to be swinging, and she's turning around and can't find anybody, and here's this guy standing there, and I'll say stuff like, yeah, you're stuck with him, you got him, or, stuff like that. You got to be careful, though. You don't want to offend anybody. If you're picking on people, make sure you know who you're picking on, and make sure you do it tastefully, okay? That's part of my wit and nature, but they say it's welcome. No display of arrogance or disdain for dancers' abilities. Well, I don't consider myself a very arrogant person anyway. I do have some caller friends that are a little bit arrogant, but they pull it off. It's their way. This one, I couldn't imagine. I could never get away with, calling down a person seriously on a square dance floor. I've seen callers that do it. They get mad at somebody because they can't get it right. I just figure out a way to move on and, maybe help the person on the break or something like that. Comes off as loving the activity, the folks, and into the music. And I do love the activity, and dancers can see that. If you're just going into your club, okay, and you're showing up 5 minutes before, which happens, but if you're doing that on a regular basis, setting your equipment up, calling your dance, staying up front on your cell phone, between tips while the round dance crew is queuing, then you go back and start calling again, things like that. You don't show that you love the activity. You show that you're there to make your little bit of money and move on, okay? Get out and try to be positive. Be a positive ambassador for square dancing while you're at your own regular groups. And sometimes it gets to be hard because, I've known some of my dancers, like I said before, since 1988. And so it's not like I, have to put on airs for that person. You're not really putting on airs. You're just showing that you enjoy what you do. If you don't enjoy it, maybe you should consider something else. Okay, and I love music. I've been, I'm a 70s rocker, and I just love all the music, and I like to learn about music. And a lot of times, if I get a new record, I'll Google online to see who the artist was, what year it came out. So I'm ready to say that kind of stuff. This is a good one, okay, and this is probably. This answer was welcome, very much welcome. Even if the crowd is small, I appear to be upbeat, and I still try to put on a great show. I don't care if you got 100 squares or you got 2 squares. Give them your best, okay? And people will see it. They will see if you go out one night and say your club is regularly 7 squares, okay? And you show up one night and all of a sudden there's only 2 squares. If you show that you're not happy with that, dancers will see that. They'll feel it. They'll feel it in your calling. They'll feel it in what you do. They'll feel it in how you walk around the room. So, put on the show. That's what you're there for. Put on the best show that you can. 2 more. There was 5 questions altogether. List some things that I employ from the stage that you really like or feel makes me stand out. I got a lot of repeat answers on this one. Maybe I didn't list that particular question. Or part of the survey very well. But so a lot of the stuff is repeat. But anyway, several of them said I call to the floor in order to keep everyone dancing. Oh, I put all this on there. This is whoever wrote it. While I prefer high energy plus dances, sometimes the dance crowd just isn't there, and you recognize that by providing us some sort of new call or creative choreography to keep everyone interested. Now, the person that sent this back to me that says she prefers high energy plus dances is one of my worst dancers. I was like, wow, how could you put that? I could see that coming from maybe some other dancers that dance with advanced with me and stuff. But that was kind of interesting to reply. But the point is, and I had this part of it a lot. They dancers recognize that I generally call to the floor to keep the dance going. Okay, and that's one of the hardest things in the world for a caller. Okay, especially if you've got a dance floor this high and this low. Okay, and what you have to do as a caller is you have to bring this together. You have to put it in the middle for everybody, because if you call down here, all right, and your dancers over here are getting bored. Okay, if you call up here, these guys are getting killed and they're not coming back. You got to find a leveler. Okay, that's a good time to start using some of the items that were on Corey's handout, or theme a new call that nobody knows. If you theme a new call that you take it out of Burleson or off the Vic Cedar side or whatever, and you theme a call that these guys don't know and these guys don't know, they're learning it together. They're leveling out the floor, and they're getting a nice experience. Okay, it's you can't do it all the time, but you can do it most of the time. I like the way you mix up squares on occasion, so we dance with others on the floor. What they're referring to there is I do some progressive squares. Okay, that's not, you can't do it every dance, especially if you're calling 3 times a week or a month for the same club. But do some things like progressive squares. One that I do that's an easy, quick get in, and dancers just love it, and they think you really worked hard on it. I guess they call it like a Sicilian circle. It's not really a Sicilian circle. But what I'll do is I'll bring everybody out into a big circle, okay? And then I'll get them promenading. I'll have them stop. I'll look at one couple. I say, okay, you California twirl to face the couple behind you. And then I'll have every other couple do that. And I'll just do 2 couple choreography in a circle. And then I'll pass through to the next. And I'll sight on, 2 people. Couple in blue. I'll sight on the couple in blue, and I'll have him go in this direction around the circle. I'll have her go in this direction around the circle, the opposite direction. And then when I'm ready to get them all back together, I do this final double pass through, because I teach them some stuff along the way. I say, well, if I say double pass through, pass 2 right shoulders, I'll do this final double pass through, and I'll say, Yellow Rock, and they're all back to their partner, and they love you to death. Okay? They do. They think you just did something absolutely wonderful, and you really didn't do anything. You just danced 2 couple stuff in a circle. It's great. All right? And here's the nice part about it. If it's only great if the dancers are successful and they do everything correct. But if they screw up along the way, then you just made it a mixer. Keep it a mixer. Don't make it look like you did that on purpose. All right? But those are different things you can do. So they like that. But they wouldn't like it if I did it every dance, so be careful with that. I like hearing your description of the artist of the song. We talked about that already. How your background plays into the song, especially when it comes to Southern rock. I'm from South Georgia and love that Southern rock stuff. And how you choose songs. You bring, again, like I said, there's a lot of repeats. You bring us new music constantly. And believe it or not, dancers love to hear new stuff. They don't want to hear Rolling in My Sweet Baby's Arms every time they go to a square dance. It is obvious that you love the activity and you love music. So like I said, a lot of repeats on that one, so that was probably a redundant question. All right, so the last one I sent to them, I said, list some improvement areas in me or activities you would like to see that would lend to keeping it fresh. Remember to consider the goals of the group, okay? So, again, they said continue to keep it fresh with upbeat music. So obviously, throughout this survey, and I had it was probably about 75 people responding. Throughout this survey, music was one of the most important things to my dancers. So I was glad to hear that, and that's going to make me go out and buy more music. I'm going to have to ask for a raise. This is funny. Do more country, gospel, and light rock. I'm not so fond of modern rock. I don't do a lot of gospel. I do some, but again, I don't want to offend some people. By doing all kinds of gospel all the time. But I think I took this as do a lot of variety. That's the way I took that. Having an angel tip at class on occasion helps me to stay alert when repetition of the beginning calls get a little ho-hum. I don't do angel tips, These days, we got 2 hours to teach class. We used to have 3 hours, right? And I might have done an angel tip then, but now I got 2 hours. I want to get it done. I want to get as much dance time in for the new people. So some of the long-time dancers are always coming up, hey, you going to do an angel tip tonight? No. No. So, but it was on the survey. Oh, here's another one. After being a regular angel, I like to dance at the higher end plus dances. It refreshes me and challenges me. I think it was the same lady that came up here. I'm not sure, but anyway. She wants me to call harder and faster. In the old days, you would personally... Okay, this is what I want to get to. In the old days, you would personally go around and say hello to everyone, make them feel welcome and important. Now that we all pretty much know one another, it's not so necessary, but still not a bad thing, especially for guests and newbies. I love my wife because she is very, very... I don't know... Some of you might know her, some of you don't, but she's very, very outgoing, and she is definitely my ambassador. And now she's after me because I'm doing this too much. For those on the MP3, I'm playing with my cell phone, okay? And I have caught that, especially during baseball season. I like to see how many times the Cincinnati Reds are beating the Pittsburgh Pirates, okay? And things like that. So be careful. You may think that's not noticeable, but it is. People are telling me that. So I've been beginning to leave my cell phone in the car. I really can't because of my day job. I have to be available 24/7, but I'm going to have to break myself of that habit. So be careful of those habits. You're with your regular group for years and years and years. How many of you been calling for a club for, say, 15 or more years? I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. You know these people. They're like your friends, or they're like your family. And, sometimes you may take it for granted that you don't have to run around and shake their hands or, give them a smile or something like that. And I'm really working hard to do that again, especially now that I saw that. I saw that one. All right, so that's pretty much everything I wanted to share with you. So I thought now... With the remaining time, what time we ended here? Does anybody know? Well, we end when we're ready. Look at that Pittsburgh hat. I wore my red shirt last night. But I thought we'd do questions, maybe try to give you some answers, and share some of your experiences. Because when we first saw this topic, I thought to myself, this is going to be a great one for sharing from the audience. So if you've got something you'd like to share, Corey's got the mic. Please raise your hand. If there's any questions, I think.
Scott Brown from Pittsburgh. We have a lot of younger people in our group. They like to tag team in and out of the square, and the goal is to do it so smoothly no one notices. That was one thing they like to do. Another thing they like to do is switch gender roles all the time. So, and they do it on the fly, and they do it to irritate me. Because, they think I'm going to sight on them, and of course I do. And then I don't know who's dancing with who anymore, so I stop sighting on them. But they do that, and they get the biggest kick out of it. And another game they would play, or we've messed around with this mirrored image dancing. So I don't know if you know what that is, but if everybody does a half sachet, but you're still boy and girl, but you're doing the reverse of everything the other square is doing. So if the caller calls square through 4, you're doing a left square through 4. If you call swing through, you're doing a left swing through. You're promenading the wrong way. You're doing everything backwards. It's pretty interesting. It's hard.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like that would be hard.
That's like a C3 something concept.
So let me ask a question of something that Scott just brought up, talking about dancers that are running, from square to square and, switching squares. And you see that on singing calls a lot, maybe like the last tip. How do you manage that as a club caller? Because there's other people that don't like that, And I've seen where one guy goes try to get in the square and the other guy doesn't let him in, How do we manage that as a caller? Can you expand on that?
Yeah. First of all, those activities are usually initiated by dancers, not callers. Right. Number one. So most, like our people, they learn different. They're not a traditional program. They're in my program, and it's not a traditional program. So they have. They tend to be very used to not being based on gender from the very beginning. because 80% of our dancers dance both parts, okay? And they're used to that. And the rest of them who don't are used to dancing with...
Okay, maybe I stated my question to you wrong. What about, I know
when they're
those
switching
guys
in and out of the squares.
What about the people that don't want to do that? What are you doing to say to your people? How are you managing that?
We tell our people from the beginning that if you're in a square where the people are either apprehensive or uncomfortable with that, don't do it. That if you're in a square where you think everybody in there is comfortable with it, then go ahead and do it. We tell them that from the beginning.
Okay, that's
how
what
we
I was
do
kind of
it.
getting at. I figured you did, but I wanted to hear.
And they make judgment calls. They'll actually, wave from the square to, okay, we're going to mix this time. If they think they got solid squares, if it makes somebody mad, well, usually it doesn't. But if that were to happen, again, the answer is initiated, so it's on them, not the caller necessarily, because you don't know they're going to do it.
Hey, one of the things I did before with a theme dance, and it wasn't the traditional one like you were. By the way, I got to let you know about all the Jimmy Buffett songs I recorded. I'm a parrot head, baby. Instead of your traditional 50s dances and stuff like that, I did one time called, for the dancers, Write Your Own Call. It was kind of fun. It was something different. Some of the dancers know the choreography a little better, and maybe they would team up with some people and they would write a call where the other one would name it. That was something a little different. And with my art background, one of the other things I did just to keep it fresh was I have had a creative committee almost, and we designed our own banner. It was kind of neat since I was able to sit down and say, hey, let's design a new banner. We've had this banner for 30 years at this club. Let's keep the same idea, but let's see if we can kind of update it. And that was something totally different because we had design your banner dance. So it was just a little more food for thought instead of your traditional themes. Anybody else with ideas, suggestions, brainstorms?
Mike Prescott from Alaska. Going back to a comment that one of your dancers made, Jack, about not spending too much time on your monologue between your patter call and your singing call. You also don't want dead silence while you're digging through your record box trying to find your singing call.
Absolutely perfect point. You are absolutely right. Be prepared. You shouldn't have to dig through your box or start looking through your playlist on your computer. You should have that prepared when you get there to that dance. Before you get there, you should know what you're going to do that night. So that's a very, very good point.
Rich Stedman from Front Royal, Virginia. What I've done sometimes is pick a square or an individual in the square and call a sequence or whatever and say, "Give me a call." And make them come up with a call, then I'll switch squares and pick another person and say, give me a call after I've called another sequence or two. And they get a real charge out of that because they're helping me call.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's cool. Any other takers, questions, comments, concerns, shares?
Carl Boone, King City, Missouri. I'm not a caller, but one thing my wife and I will do at a dance, particularly if the caller says he's going to do two singing calls in a row, we'll grab a stuffed animal and we'll slip in and out of a square, each one of us. And there again, you run into that situation sometimes where somebody doesn't want to be bumped out or they'll go sit down. So it doesn't always work, but just a mixture where the person you hand it to goes to another square and hands it to somebody else and follows it around. So.
One thing I found helpful, and I learned this many, many years ago at a CALLERLAB convention, a caller said that he keeps track of what he does, the singing calls that he does at dances. And I think if you call regularly for a club or teach regularly for a group, that one good way to make sure that you're adding variety to your program and not calling the same thing over and over again is to write down what you do after the dance. Some people can have the ability to do that on their computer. Some of us do it manually. I even write down what I wear. I've been accused sometimes of going back to a festival a year later, and somebody will say, "Well, that's the same shirt you wore on Saturday night last time." And I'm like, how do you remember that? So I just write it down, and a lot of times I go back to call for a group, 200 miles down the road, and I know what calls that I did the last time I was there. If it was 6 or 8 months ago, I know what I wore. I know some of the different choreography that I used that night. If I themed things or something I did, then I go back and I pick something else out and just keep that variety going that way. It's helped me an awful lot. I find that it's an easy way to keep the choreography and the stuff fresh.
And it's absolutely correct. It reminds me of a caller I called with 1 year. He's not calling anymore, but called with him 1 year. And then 11 years later, we called a dance together again, and he brought up the singing call list that we did on his computer. Actually, he was one of the first callers that I've seen using a computer, and he actually brought up what we did 11 years ago, and said, "Well, we got to make sure we don't do any of these." I'm like, "Why? 11 years?" But organization, and that's great. Expanding on what Mike said, especially if we're using computers now. Okay, it shouldn't be that hard to be organized. You could have a file that for your club A, and have a little heading for each one of those, and what date you did this and that. I'm not sure I'd go into clothing, but I mean seriously, I totally agree with you. And a club caller can get in a rut. Okay, because we all have our favorite songs, okay, and we all do 10, 15 different favorite songs that we like to do a lot. If you start doing that every club dance, the dancer's going to get a little tired of that. So yeah, good input.
When I was, how much time are we good?
Do we go till 4 or 3:30? 3:45. We got 15 minutes.
15 minutes. One of the things I mentioned briefly in my rapping was check squares. Did you hear me say that about the mixed-up squares with Clark? If you've never seen it, I saw him perform that sometime, and it totally blew my mind. And I guess he wrote it because he saw it in Czechoslovakia. That's why it's called Czech dancing. And imagine there's a bunch of dancers. You're the caller back there, okay? And they're all dancing. And what he explained was, think of line dancing now. They're all square dancing, but if you're the caller, I'm the number 3 man. You with me? And we'll get another guy. Jack will be a number 3 man over there. Another person here will be another 3 man, and number 3 man. We're all number 3 men. Whatever you're calling, we do that dancing with 7 ghosts. 7 phantoms. So if he says square through 4, you and I. And it looks, if everybody's in cadence, everybody square dancing out there, the people, and you got to be really, really good, I guess. I've never tried it yet, but I saw it, and I was like, huh? Are you with me? Does that make sense? We're all dancing the same thing. Swing through, and it's funny because, people coming, hey, there. But he has that on his mixed-up squares. Have you ever been to that site? My favorite is the bar stool dancing. Have you seen the bar stool? Have you tried? You want to explain it, Mike? I mean, I can't, but I want Mike Seastrom from California.
All you have is one person, and it's easy if you do it at an after party or something like that. You just have 2 couples. You just would have one couple facing one other couple, because a big square is a little more difficult because they're all dancing around each other. But if you had just 2 couples, just really quick. If we jump up, we did 2 couples, and here we got a little bit of a spot right here. Okay. So you come up in here. So one of us is the bar stool, and when I do it with kids, I call it the fence post. So it doesn't have to be a bar stool; it'll be a fence post. But if I'm the fence post and everybody's dancing around there, we do a right and left through. I don't move. I turn, but I'm stuck in place. So we do a right and left through. So you guys have to shift over this way. All right, star through. Actually, I should be standing in the same place. I should be standing right in the middle, and you guys can move around me, okay? Do a right and left through again. So I'm standing in the same spot, but I'm turning as everybody else does. So do a star through. You guys are going to have to shift on over here because everybody else shifts. If you're in a big giant square and you do the relay, the doozy or something, you're going to find everybody running to make up for that one person standing in one spot. I would suggest when you first do it at an after party with your club and just with 2 couples. You could do it in a very short or small area, and you can do it with one person just standing in the same spot. But it is a lot of fun, and that's the way Clark showed it to us one CALLERLAB convention at the bar, and one of us sat on a stool, and everybody else dances around them. So
I had heard a story. I don't remember the caller who told me, but there was one of the dancers at that dance. She had broken her leg, and her husband was still able to dance. They did a bar stool tip, and she danced because she couldn't move a lot, but she was just basically standing in one place, and they loved it. So that's bar stool dancing at Clark Baker's website that I have written on the yellow flyer. Mixed up squares or mixedup.com.
Any other comments? Shares?
Good stuff.
Give her the mic.
Oh, absolute catch.
Donna Cox from Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right.
Some callers have a very outgoing personality and can pull this stuff off, but what do you suggest for callers that find doing something out of the ordinary a little more challenging? It's out of their comfort zone. Going around and shaking hands and telling everybody they're glad to be there is about all they can really handle.
Yeah, I understand your question, and sometimes I get into that myself. All I can do is, from my standpoint, again, that's why I have a wonderful partner. She, handles stuff for me, so it really works out. We're a great partnership. But as far as, trying to adjust somebody's personality traits or things like that, I'm not the right person to talk to. Maybe Corben could say.
One thing I could, is just basing this on working with other callers, have used their music, and Jack talked a lot about music, to their advantage. I know of just people over the years who, we were just talking about here's a picture, by the way, of Jack Pladdys back in 19. I've had this record for years. It's Celebrate Good Times, come on. And he did this on the, I wanted him to autograph. I've had it for 25 years. But if you're not into singing, that's that one in like the YMCA song, get the dancers to do the singing for you,
So you're the one.
I'm the one that bought that.
The one that bought one, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my change on that. No, but so use your music and use your dancers too, especially if they're singing calls that you have that are great sing-along songs. Actually, that's a great
after
question.
He started talking, he makes a good point. Maybe I should have said this. Convince the caller to focus on things that he is good at, and sometimes it can overshadow some of the things he might be weak on, as far as, if it's a personality trait or something like that. Let him or convince him to work harder on the stuff that he's really good at, and it might just kind of offset that a little bit. Good question.
Wendy Vandermeulen from Ottawa, Canada. When I got the mic, I thought, maybe this isn't right. But I think in something like that, then maybe just having a theme dance. So he doesn't have to do anything odd or unusual or anything like that, but then just pick a theme. And can a dancer suggest to the caller, can you do a theme sort of a thing? And then that way he doesn't have to do anything odd or weird. He can just maybe, comes back to the music thing. But
when you said you weren't sure, I thought you made it the whole way through the session and realized you were in the wrong session. This is Mike Seastrom again.
I think you guys brought up a good point about dancers singing along. I think every one of us should be doing sometime in the evening, a couple times in the evening, do songs that the dancers know and can sing with, and have them sing with you. I mean, when they participate and they're answering you back, even if it's in a pattern call or something like that, when they're responding to you, it makes a big difference, and it doesn't take much to have them participate and them be involved.
Absolutely. And three of my favorite sing-alongs that dancers love, of course you can only do them like once every 6 months, right? One is American Pie, Royal, if anybody's writing this down. 2 is Hazel Eyes. I can't remember what label it's on.
Chaparral. I know it's on a bunch of labels.
Yeah, it's not, the one I have is not Chaparral. It's a different label, but that's a good one. People, are they blue? Yeah, green, yeah, And the third one is, what was it?
Celebrate good time. Oh, I was trying to promote your record. Sorry.
Oh yeah, Where the Heck is Alice? That's right. Yeah. Oh, that was the third one. People love that. Yeah. I'm sorry. Witch Doctor. Witch Doctor's a good one. Yep.
One of the.
Ding dang.
Then you can't get that song out of your mind the rest of the night. one of the things Mike was talking about, having the dancers maybe call with you in the patter. It's always fun to do stuff like everybody do a right and left through, square through 4. Okay, you want to go 4? I was going to say a 10, but go ahead. And then swing, and they go through, and you go no, your partner or something like that. Having fun with the.
Let's take one more, and then we're probably going to have to wrap up.
I saw a hand.
The one you were talking about singing, I'm Dale Chase, and I'm from outskirts of Washington, D.C. I've only been at this for about 10, 12 years, but we have square dance for 25 years, my wife and I. And right now I'm having a hard time because we miss square dance, and she can't. She broke her hip, and I want to try that bar, but I've got another person. I've got another person that's the same way. Can you do that twice? I mean, with 2 people in it? No?
No, it wouldn't snap.
I didn't say same square. I said you can.
Oh, sure. One person in every square. Yeah.
Well, what I'll do is I'll just pair them up in, 2 just 2 couples, and have them do it. That's the main thing I do. But the main thing is when you were saying
not in
singing,
the same square. Not in the same square.
No, not in the same square. But when they were singing, a lot of them are like they like Pretty Blue Eyes, and they'll start singing, and all of a sudden I'll just be quiet and go for it. You tell me what you want to do next. And they'll be calling the song themselves and doing the whole thing.
Exactly. Yep. Sing-alongs are really nice. Dancers do like those. And some of the patriotic songs are good sing-alongs as well. God Bless America, turn the music down, let them all sing with you.
Show Me the Way to Go
All
Home
right.
is always a good one.
Hey, that's a good one to end on.
Everybody ready? Show me the way to go home. Oh, I'm tired and I want to go to bed.
Thank you, everybody, for attending this session. We appreciate it. Keep it fresh. Keep them coming. Work hard to make your dancers happy.
Let's hear it for Jack Pladdys.
And Corey Geis.